This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so today is Thursday, November 19th, and as always, everything that we're going to be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. So first thing that's going to be looked at on our list for this morning is by far our just gigantic trade that we had yesterday afternoon in this YY. So we know a little bit of information based off of from what we saw yesterday as well as what we saw coming into today. So let's talk about what we saw yesterday first. Now, first thing coming into this 80 level, huge selling that came in yesterday. It needed to basically pull back up from this 80. And that's essentially what it's doing. Now, we also have huge selling that's at this 75 level. So the thing is, it came and pushed into 70. It did not hit. We ended up pulling back, and that's really where we're at right now. The person at 80 and 75 really in no way whatsoever would have been able to make their money because they certainly showed more of a building print coming in than they did show trading print. Now, was it an exception? Of course it was. So it just continued down and down and down, but then came back to reality perfectly. So let's talk about what we have this morning. First of all, beautiful selling that came in at 84.50. So you can see more and more new selling is happening. Now, the one thing that I'm not a huge fan of is this. And it's not that I'm not a huge fan of, but this is definitely putting a kink in us just getting a nice bar down and bringing us back to this double bottom at 70. 85.01, this is no joke. I mean, somebody came in right after we saw those 84.50 prints, and not immediately right after. You can see it was about 20 minutes or so before this came back in, but certainly someone's certainly showing that their expectations of this stock are going to be pulling up above that 84.50 selling, pulling back above this 85, a pretty substantial amount before we would end up coming back down to satisfy this selling. Like I said, I mean, this is just, even though it's huge and it does show longer term more than it does show shorter term, 85.01 means a lot. So it's longer term, but shorter term at the same time because of where the prints actually came in. So the game plan has to be drawing the chart going up above this 85 level. Remember that, I'm going to expect a huge range coming into this today as we can see. Already 1 point, almost 2 million shares being traded. On average, trades 404. So we're going to be expecting some big movement coming out of this. So from those 85.01 prints, we got to look at least 250. Really going to be moving towards more the 5 level. And this is obviously continuing to keep its personality within range from yesterday, which it certainly does look that way based off the volume we have. So we're looking at a minimum 87.50 needing to come up from there before we end up basically kind of tanking back down. And conservatively, obviously, 80 is going to be where we're going to be looking at, but remember, beautiful, beautiful selling at that 75. So we got a lot of information coming into this. It should be one of our, better movements coming into the morning. Next thing looking at is BEKE. So not the prettiest looking stock yet, but at the same time, definitely has a bigger range. On average, $4.43. Yesterday traded $7.39. So I'm going to be expecting a lot more range coming out of this one as well. Coming into the actual prints themselves, so we can see 60. We're a little bit far away from 60 to really pay too much attention to it. Never really pulled back. I mean, technically, I had some prints that popped up that moved to 50 cents. I would have expected more, especially with the riders at 60 coming in there. Then coming back down, you can see 58, 57.50. We're definitely seeing a lot more buying, not really as much new selling. So really going to have to our expectations pull this one back up towards where we have those 60 prints because of it never really making those moves. And then from there, obviously going to be looking back, to continue towards our upside because of the fact that we're seeing more buying than new selling that's coming in big time. So really has shown no real selling ever since underneath pretty much that 58 level. The only real selling we had is basically, 59 and up. So overall, another one, lots of prints that are coming into there should be, a lot bigger range than we normally look for. Next thing, looking at SPG. So SPG is another one where it doesn't look so pretty yet, but on average trades 305. We can see at 1.2 million shares already being traded. Going to have to, our expectation is going to have to be that it's going to break what its average volume typically is. So coming back over here, let's take a look at our prints. Unfortunately, a little bit mixed coming to the 75. You can see 75 had a little bit of ask, then we had a little bit of selling coming in. This, below the bit's not going to help us. A little bit of selling, a little bit of buying. So 75, obviously, we need to get the hell away from this level. With knowing how much of a range it's going to have, even though it's 90 cents away, that's just not even close to enough. So need a better show of hand in here until we really make our decisions, but it should certainly, it's got all the potential in the world for a real big, smooth kind of high range trade coming in there. Just need better prints. Obviously, we have way better prints coming into YY at this moment. Next thing, look at that is FENG. So I like the way that it's sitting in this consolidation. The reason I like that is because typically when we have our cheaper stocks really make that move, those moves during the pre-market on a higher volume, typically we see them kind of just die out once the market opens. Right here, we really haven't made any type of substantial move. Unfortunately, it's very, very mixed, and it's a very hard read right now because of the fact that it's just been sitting in consolidation pretty much since 7 o'clock this morning. So you just have buying, then selling, then buying, then selling, then buying, then selling. Obviously, we need to see something real nice come in at that 250 level, which we have some buying, but then we also have some selling. So it really isn't definitive yet of where we're looking to go. But even with all the selling that's coming in and all the buying that's coming in, we're still holding right here, which is definitely a big deal. That, basically 230 levels really going to be important. Technically 225, you can see this consolidation goes down. So we do have some support there, but really would like to see it hold right about that 230 where we saw that bar come back down to. And then obviously it triggered towards the upside. It's got buying, and it's, the only problem is it just doesn't have anything that's really that definitive. How many would you want to see in this to say, haha, here it is? It's not even a number, it's a amount, basically you're going to see a page or something. It's going to be so obvious. It's got to be so obvious because even some of these bursts, like you said, the bigger bigger print personality, it looks like a lot here, but that's not really that much in consideration to the fact that it's trading 7.6 million shares. So it's, Davis, I don't have a number for you. It's not like I'm going to say 20, but it's going to look like 20, 20, 30. It's going to look like something really, really big. Next thing we're looking at is Solo, S-O-L-O. So this thing's been, really giving us some moves for the past week or so. Pretty much comes out of nowhere. The only thing, again, is that, coming in here, I didn't really see anything that jumped out at me. You have a lot of those below the bid, those Laker color type prints that came in at 8 o'clock that really don't give us any type of real information. You have a couple ask prints at 750. It's another one where we really need to see something better coming into this, some type of better show of hand. I haven't seen anything that really jumps out that says this is what needs to happen. But again, with this much volume being traded in the pre-market, obviously, bigger than average range, usually trades 33 cents. We can't even pay attention to that as of this moment. Not going to be a huge, huge mover, but at the same, technically it could go anywhere, but based off what it's showing, not going to be a huge mover. We certainly should be able to find a minimum of 50 cents coming into here. It's just going to really be a matter of giving us those prints. So don't really have them yet, need to be coming in. ADTX, another one going to be looking at. Unfortunately, this one's going to be towards the bottom of my side list. And the only reason it's there is because you can see, even after this nice move towards the upside, there's just not much range there. It goes very quanti, very consolidated within its trading. Definitely something to look at because there is new buying that's been coming in as it's up here. But again, very mixed during this consolidation. So it's got potential, but it's, like I said, it's on the bottom of my side list just because I don't see a huge amount of possibility here based off of the way that it's been trading coming into the morning. And then DNK, I'm going to keep on our side list as well. Just remember, yesterday we had a lot of building that was coming to this, and it finally made that move above the 5. Had ask prints, did not come back down from there. This is obviously coming into the aftermarket from yesterday, but you know what? There's enough money in here to make a lot more than basically 30 cents off of what we saw from the building coming into yesterday. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on this. There's enough buying up here. If we do get a real nice trigger with nice volume, I'm perfectly comfortable with it being a high percentage there based off of what we saw coming into yesterday. Little cheap BHAT, B-H-E-P-H-A-T. Let's take a look. Yeah, definitely a little bit cheap, but for the pre-market, there's no problem trading it up until 9:30. The only problem, with these things, the only problem is if it does exactly what we see and we want it to, we end up getting that. We end up getting halted, and that last thing that you want to do first thing in the morning, especially when we have this much potential that's sitting on our list. So, I mean, you could definitely keep an eye on it, but like you said, it's just a little bit too small. And PLTR, this is one of those stocks that essentially it's going to be turning into pretty much an everyday that you could look at. There's a long story in here. Some nice prints coming into that 1850 level. Let's see anything down here. That's a lot of selling before 8. Yeah, something to keep. I mean, you could definitely keep an eye on it. Just we have better stuff to be looking at coming into first thing for our morning. All right, anything else out there? I think those two are probably the only other. Scanners are a little bit light, but definitely keep an eye on that YY. Yesterday was absolutely phenomenal, so definitely be paying attention to that. So KNDI, this is something. I mean, I've been just continuing to trade it and watch it. So I made a nice move to the upside, but the one thing I've been looking at it all morning. See, we just don't really have any prints. It's definitely got potential, definitely something to keep up there. But I mean, it fits the criteria of something to look at. I just don't see anything yet. So it's usually KNDI when it's going to make a move, we see we get something pretty obvious, and I just haven't seen that yet. So. Once again, definitely something I'm going to have my eye on. It just doesn't really have anything to be put on our list yet. Better stuff for us to be looking at. All right, guys, let's get ready for our morning. Remember, yesterday I know a bunch of you guys left. You had a few problems, but you know what? Unfortunately, YY gave probably not probably, by far the best trade of the day. So definitely going to be looking at this one pretty closely, especially for the first trade, because once you get a trade that comes into this, it definitely has a lot of room to kind of go. So it makes it a lot easier to be able to trade more stocks coming into the morning. So definitely number one on my list. All right, guys, I will talk to everybody in the chat, and happy trading.